They say new year, new you. Well, this year I'm going to continue to expand my palate by drinking more rye whiskey. Stay tuned. Simple whiskey, Cyncere. Here to keep it 100. What's the ABV? Keep it simple. Simple whiskey. And be sweeter. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Simple Whiskey Show. I'm Cyncere, and tonight we're trying something a little different. You guessed it, rye whiskey. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on your notification bells, and stay up to date on all things Simple Whiskey. Let's get started. I've covered a few different expressions from Bardstown Bourbon Company. Had quite a bit of mixed reviews when I first started out, when my palate wasn't quite ready for some of the unique flavors. And half the time I couldn't determine whether or not some of the bottles were better off left on the shelves solely because of price point alone. Either way, as I continue to evolve, I'm going to try new things and I'm going to be able to express whether or not I like them. And over time, I think that I'll like a lot more things that I used to not like. And then some things that I used to think were just amazing won't quite hit the same for me. I'm finding that out more and more as I continue down this journey. I had a sip of this when I first got the bottle and I actually did enjoy it. Granted, it wasn't quite the best day. The Bengals were losing. It wasn't the first whiskey I'd had of the evening. So while I did enjoy it, I can't say that I quite remember the flavor profiles or anything else. Lucky for everybody that was watching the game with me, I did not throw a Glencairn, at least not that night. So I thought, why not do a full review on this one, figure out whether or not I really enjoy it, and figure out whether or not it's worth recommending to you all. So this particular bottle was one that I tend to walk past on the shelves. I'd seen it in the store quite a few times when I would go to backfill some of my other bottles or pick up other things that were new. But I was always just a little bit hesitant to stop and grab a new rye. When I first started out, I didn't really enjoy ryes. I know I've talked about it in the past, so I won't go too in-depth into it here. But it's just one of those things that as much as I know, like, okay, this bottle's not over the top expensive. All right, I know that my palate is warmed up to ryes and I actually do enjoy a few of them, but I just can never seem to bring myself to go to the store and say, you know what, here's a new rye I haven't tried, let me just pick it up. It's almost like for ryes, I have to go with the purpose, but for everything else, it's like a kid in a candy store. Something catches my eye and I'm like, oh, this one, oh, that one. Not so much with ryes. If you've tried this one, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of it. Coming in at 96 proof, it's right in that sweet spot of very palatable sippers, not overpowering usually. Also not quite too light, like the Benchmark 8 last week was just a little more dull, a little more muted. At the 96 proof point, usually you can still make out quite a bit of unique flavor profiles, and some of those things that tend to stand out are usually because it's not too high to where it's burning off your taste buds, and then it's also not so low that it's more just water and a little bit of flavor. I'm also curious to see how this one's actually opened up, given it has been open for a little bit. So without further ado, let's get to sipping. I know it's been a little bit since I've done an actual review of a bottle, so just to let you know what you're in for, I'm going to do a little swivel, sniff, sip, give you a little bit of feedback, then I'm going to add a couple of drops of water to it. Then I'm going to do a simple breakdown where I go through whether or not I recommend it, the proof, the price, all of the good things that we like to get into when it comes to whiskey. Now let's get started. Little swivel. So on the nose, I don't get the traditional mint, maybe a little bit of cinnamon, but I really get more of a cherry and a floral note. Definitely picking up a lot of cherry on this one. A little smidge of mint. The further I let my nose linger on the glass, get a little bit more of that ethanol, and I think that in itself starts to transition it from cherry to something else. And because I know it's a rye, my body's telling me mint, but my nose is telling me cherry. Let's go in for a sip. Very viscous mouthfeel. Really coats the mouth well. I definitely get like a brighter fruit flavor up on the palate immediately. That transitions straight into a rye spice, a little bit more of a cinnamony bite to it. And when I say bite, I don't mean like a harsh bite. I'm just saying it starts out very, very fruitful. And then it just, boom, you start to feel a little bit of that rye spice cinnamon note. I don't get the mint like I have on some ryes here recently, but cinnamon and more of a fruity note up front, cinnamony splash on the back. Finish on this one, medium finish, not overly lingering. It more along the lines of it's there for a second, then it goes away. You do still get a little bit of that rye spice note after, but nowhere near as deep of a finish as some of the other ones like Sagamore. Let's add some water to it and see what we get. So I've added a little bit of water to it, gave it time to sit and settle. Let's go back in for another swivel sniff sip. See, now this time on the nose, I do get more of that sweeter, minty rye nose. I no longer get cherry at all. Just a little bit of cherry, nowhere near as prominent as the cherry was the initial nose. Let's try a sip. Okay, so the cinnamon dulled down a little bit. You can still taste the rye flavors of it. I think this one's like 95% rye, so it's not surprising that you can taste the rye notes on it. It's not overpowering by any stretch. The water doesn't dull it down so much that it's undrinkable like some of the ones I did in the past. Opens it up a little bit, but I think that I'd still prefer this one without the water in it. When there was no water in it, I got a lot more of that bright burst of a fruity note when I first sipped it. The mid palate with all that cinnamon definitely lingered a little bit into the finish, whereas now I get a little smidge of rye on the upfront portion of the taste, and then through the mid palate, it goes more like a buttercream cake or something. Like, it's very sweet. It definitely goes sweeter. Let's hop into the simple breakdown for this one. MSRP on this, $69.99. Secondary pricing the same. I haven't seen it higher than $70 anywhere. I'm sure as time goes on, if people continue to take to it, you may see a $10 or $20 jump in secondary, but for the most part, I'm seeing this everywhere, anywhere between 65 and 75 in general. Age statement on this, 6 years. Drinks well. It's not overly complex, nor is it underwhelming by any stretch, but 6-year age statement. ABV and proof, 48% ABV, 96 proof. Mash bill, 95% rye, 5% malted barley. You definitely get the rye flavor that you would expect out of a 95% rye mash bill, but again, it's nowhere near as potent as some of the other ryes that I've had. And again, it may just be that I'm more acclimated to ryes now. This will be another one that I ask for you to let me know in the comments what you think of this one. If traditionally you don't always enjoy rye, or you think that some ryes can be a bit strong in terms of the rye flavor, let me know your thoughts on this one, because I don't quite get that overpowering rye out of this one. Distillery, Bardstown. Simple advice, try before you buy. At $69.99, there are a lot of good rye whiskeys out there, especially if you're new to rye. Like, I will still consider myself somewhat new to rye. I don't feel that I'll be backing this one up or running to grab another bottle of it if I do drink through this one. I don't think that I'll be drinking through it quickly, and it's not because I don't like it. This one just doesn't scream, oh my, just every Friday night, this is a good sipper, or even add it to my go-to sippers. So cheers to the new year, as we just wrapped up the first bottle review of 2024, Bardstown Origin Series Rye. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on your notification bells to stay up to date on all things Simple Whiskey. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Leave no stone unturned and no bottle unopened. May your glasses be full and your rye spice be nice. Please drink responsibly and keep it simple. Cheers.